another warrant officer.
Yeah.
Boy, do you love Excel as much as I do. I guarantee it.
Oh, dude, that was one of the programs that I was good enough to make it work, but
Yeah.
that's kind of where I ended. I don't think I was ever fully an Excel ninja.
Yeah, no. I got good enough from YouTube and friggin' just tutorials. I'm like, fuck yeah,
Yeah,
this is awesome.
yeah,
You get good enough to where people are like, oh man, that's pretty impressive. And it's always other fucking nerds. It's like, God damn it, this is my life
yeah.
now.
Yeah. I'm pretty good at finding a template that somebody else
Yes.
made. Like
Fucking
so,
the iDrive.
yeah.
Oh, well, Bryan, welcome to Security Halt podcast, man. I'm excited to have you on. I found you, and I found somebody that's like a lot of our other soft brothers are getting out, willing to go the path that's uncharted and build something new. So I'm excited to have you on the show to like dissect your journey, my man.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate being able to come on and kind of share the journey. Getting on podcasts wasn't something I ever would have thought I would want to do getting out. But it is cool to kind of share knowledge and reconnect with the community and even pass on some of the lessons learned of what it's like short term after you get out and what those feelings are like, what work looks like, and just what life is like after spending your entire career in the military and like all of a sudden being in the next chapter, So yeah.
Dude, absolutely. We all tend to think that this is going to be the thing that we do forever. Being warrant officers, we're like, hey, how can I fucking stay on the team just a little longer?
Yep.
And then before you know it, something happens. Either life gets in the way or, physical issues get in the way. Something happens and you have to pivot. And I want to dissect your journey, my man. So please tell us all about yourself.
Yeah, man. So I'll just go the kind of OPI blanket overview. So I'm married. I got 4 kids, and my wife's been with me through the entire soft journey. I joined in 2003 right out of high school. As soon as you finished basic and airborne, I was down at Fort Polk with the 509th infantry down there, the Geronimo Op 4 guys, and that was actually such a cool assignment. For one, we actually got to deploy and do OIF and everything, but also just being a professional bad guy can make you a really good guy. So definitely a great duty station. So yeah, I spent 5 years, in regular infantry. I got pulled to do a short recruiting stint. So I was a regular Army recruiter for 2 years. Probably one of my worst Army experiences, like as far as, just what that whole ecosystem looked like and everything. But again, every experience you get, good or bad, just it helps you somewhere else. So I got to see what it was like to be on the receiving end of just an extreme micromanagement environment. And, I could use that to develop my own leadership style later on. So from there, I went to assessment, and that's where the soft journey started. So I was a Arabic speaker and a commo guy who all signs pointed towards us going to 5th group. That's where they even said, hey, get your 5th group flashes on because you guys are going to 5th group. And then like a week before graduation, they're like, hey, these 10 guys or whatever, 110 and 10th group. So I was one of the small handful of Arabic guys that went to 10th group. So it started there. I went to 3rd Battalion, 10th group as a commo guy. I was on a mountain team. From there, I did my SWIC tour, which again, I got extremely fortunate, and I will admit that, is that my SWIC tour was at the mountain school right across the street from 3rd Battalion at 10th group.
Dude,
so
that is the hidden gem. Everybody hears about this legendary mountain school that 10th group's got, and it's just like the stories we've heard. It's like a fantasy land.
Yeah, and it is, and we'll get into that part of it too, especially as that's where my career culminated. But yeah, very, very closely. I don't know. The whole mountain program was such a huge part of my life and my career. But yeah, we'll get into that stuff. But so I went there while it was under SWIC, which was just an extremely short enough time for me to get a SWIC NCOER. When I left there, I went straight to the warrant course after I commissioned to 2nd Battalion. And then from there, multiple Afghanistan back-to-back deployments. And then I moved on to the mountain school. And that was it. That was the end of the ride. I ran the mountain school for a couple years, and that's where I retired out of.
Nice.
So yeah, now I'm just now I'm here in Colorado still. I entered the workforce as soon as I got out, with a job that seemed like a pretty cool opportunity. Was there for just about a year, and at that point things didn't quite work out. And then I decided to go back to school. Not back to school. I never went to school. I decided to go to school and soak up some GI Bill, and then I ended up starting a business and all that stuff. So now here I am in the grind of starting a brand new company while going to school and just figuring out what it's like to be just a dirty, rotten leg. So,
dude, that is a path that so many of us find ourselves in, and we stumble onto it. And now I am trying to encourage people to just go into it naturally, rather than, because like you said it, like went right into work, like check that block.
Yeah.
Then I left that job, check that block, and then I found myself betting on myself and going to school.
Yeah. Well, we're
and that's something
like,
oh, go ahead.
Our whole career path, there's no stagnicity. You're not allowed to be stagnant. We wish we could be stagnant. Like, ask a guy on a team, hey, if you could be at E7 or at E8 and stay on your team your entire career, would you rather do that, or do you want to push to be a sergeant major? Dude, like 90% of dudes would be like, hey man, I joined SF because I wanted to be a team guy.
Yep.
And if you could tell me I could just be a team guy, that's what I'll be. But the Army doesn't allow that. There's no such thing as being stagnant. It's up or it's out, which is unfortunate, especially in a place where experience rules. We want guys with more team time.
Yes.
And OpTempo has disallowed that. And reduction in guys means guys are moving on to staff earlier. There's vacant positions that need to be filled, and guys are getting pulled off the teams early because of it. But, getting back to where this stemmed from, like as soon as you get out, what am I supposed to do? Just sit and relax for a while? And then, no, you get antsy. If you have to contribute, you have to work, you have to be doing something, or you feel like you're failing. So I just jumped right into the workforce right away. And I can't say that it was a mistake. There was a lot of lessons learned from that, and it was a good experience, and I built a pretty cool network because of it. But I don't know. I'm not sure what I would do differently, but there's definitely this thing that says I can't just get out and not do something. I've got to keep rolling,
And what'd you transition into?
So when I was at the mountain course, we were working with this company called HVMN, and they had this ketone drink that they were pushing with SOCOM. They got a grant for it to do studies on it. And basically what it does, just a kind of short science lesson on it, surface level science, don't worry, is that ketones are something that your body will naturally produce. And it does it when you don't have carbs on board. So when people do keto diet and things like that, after a couple of days, eventually they'll get into ketosis. And the benefit of that is it's a very efficient fuel that your body will run on. It's like comparing diesel fuel to like nitromethane. Like if you want to go all day at a 70% or lower heart rate, if you want to think clearer and all that stuff, like ketones are just such an optimal fuel that's completely natural. But when you start raising your heart rate and pushing and things like that, like our job is, which is a very 0 to 100% job, at the blink of an eye, your body can't run on ketones at high heart rates. Like you'll bonk hard. So the idea was that this is something you can take, and you can have ketones on board, which will help you during the endurance portion of whatever you're doing. And then you still have glycogen available because you're still taking in carbs as well. So it really was an awesome dual fuel solution. And in running those studies, because they used the mountain school because it was up at altitude to run that. We were running on Garmin's and, Oura rings, so they could take the metrics, they could look at sleep, they could look at heart rate, both for the placebo group and for the tested group. And that was the whole idea, is to see, like, does this make enough of a difference? I'd worked with this company enough as I was getting out. They were like, hey, we don't have anybody in this role. Like, we'd love to have you as part of the company. So, I moved on with them, and I moved on to run their, what would be called like institutional sales. So basically, who we're going to sell wholesale to, and this is going to be government, this is going to be major sports teams, anybody that's going to buy in bulk that's going to use it. And, I guess what it kind of went from was, it went from me being in a position where I was going to be standing up a wing of this business and bringing other people on, to just like, things weren't working out, not enough people really knew about it. The buyers weren't coming in at the rate that we all expected them to. And, from a business standpoint, cost effectiveness, it cost more to keep me around than money that was coming in from my channel. So it was a decision, it wasn't my decision. Like, yeah, I mean, I could say it honestly. Yeah. Like I lost the job, he said,
Yeah.
hey, we're letting you go because of this. There was no bad blood there. My disappointments were only in, I wasn't able to achieve what I wanted to achieve. But the job just started turning into more of a like, now I'm cold calling, now I'm cold emailing, now I'm scrolling through LinkedIn. And it's like, dude, I felt like a recruiter again. And so I wasn't happy anymore. And things just weren't working out there. So yeah, again, like I don't have any bad blood with the company or with anybody in it. I still keep in contact with like the whole crew. But yeah, that was just kind of my first experience of, dude, what's life like on the outside? And hey, guess what? You can lose your job if things don't work out really easily. You don't lose your job in the Army. You don't. Like
you just get sent to S3.
Yeah, you can consistently fail your way up to a point. But yeah, like so, when I got a call, I was like, "Hey, we're letting you go." I was like, "Wait, it can just happen like that?" Yeah, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, "I don't have a job. What am I?" So yeah, that was my first attempt at post military employment. So.
But you're right, though. Those are valuable lessons, and it reinforces things like, hey, wait a second, like, yeah, this sucks, but at the same time, is this a silver lining? Because I don't like doing fucking cold calls. I don't like having to fucking scrub through endless LinkedIn posts and trying to find somebody that aligns with what I'm trying to sell. Like that is difficult.
It is, man. And you have to ask yourself from a business perspective, every single decision you make, is this making the company money? And that's a hard mindset for me to have because like, I don't want to say I don't care about money, but I really don't. I don't care about being wealthy. I don't care about I care about having enough to support my family to where they can have good experiences and grow to be, good people. But I don't care about having a ton of money. So I never really had that mindset of like, how much is this going to make us? How much is this deal? And like really crunching numbers. It's just not something that I carry. And it's something I'm going to have to work with even with my own business as well. So,
yeah. So what are you going back to school for now?
So I went for the first semester or first year, I went for professional photography. Throughout my career, I almost always had a camera with me. It's just something I always enjoyed doing. I love capturing all these different experiences around the world. It's funny because even in the soft community, just like, I mean, I think things have changed now, especially as a younger generation that was grown on social media is around and being out there is more normal. But, I'm sure in your generation and my time too, it was very weird to put anything online. And it was very weird.
Yeah, dude.
Like,
oh my God.
Dude, my wife hated it because she was on, she had Facebook and she had no pictures of me online on Facebook. In fact, if there was a picture, I'd be like blurred out or like cut out the face or something like that. To the point to where people thought she was a single mom, like, like that. I had no idea. But that's just how it was. But
yeah, I remember being a younger guy and wanting to take pictures and post them. And it was the hardest lesson learned, because you see other guys that you're coming up with and they're sharing pictures. And the first time your team sergeant or seniors see that shit, it is just like fucking public lashings.
Oh yeah, dude.
It's like,
exactly.
Take that shit off.
Especially if it's something that in some way could embarrass or discredit the unit, which was just such a big thing. But where I headed with that was funny is, you take all these pictures and you're the one team guy who always carries a camera and nobody really cares. And then at the end of deployment, what do you get? Hey bro, do you have any of those pictures of me? Yep. Hey bro, can we put those pictures on the drive? Like everybody wants them, but like nobody wants to be the guy to do it. So
dude, abso-fucking-lutely. One of the biggest critics and most fucking just like straight up like, don't take any fucking cool guy pictures out of nowhere in a DM. Hey, do you got any pictures from that 2015 deployment?
Yep.
I'm like, oh yeah, all the ones that I got a lot of shit for trying to take and capture. But now all of a sudden you want some.
And that's something I implore guys to do. Like when, guys want to come home, they want to do an entire, career and they want to be sterile when they do it.
Yeah.
And, on the opposite side of my wall here, I've got stuff from around the world, from Africa stuff, from Iraq, from like all my whole career. And I wish I had more, because I look at that and I can remember it and stuff that I'll never have an opportunity to go to these places again. So like I tell guys, look, you might think you're too cool to collect souvenirs or too cool to take pictures, but someday you're going to be happy that you have them, and your
Yes.
family is going to be happy, and you're going to be able to tell stories about where this weird thing come from or what is this. And it's way more important than people realize. And
Absolutely, man. You're
you
going
know,
around the world doing amazing shit,
yeah,
whether it's a J set, whether it's a fin mission, whatever you're doing with your bros, with the people that you love and care for the most. Stop. Just reflect for a few moments. It doesn't have to be something completely stupid and reckless, but capture the moment, capture the adventures
exactly.
you're
Like,
on.
it's okay, man. Like, yeah, like, you don't. That doesn't mean take and do a Facebook Live or an Instagram Live on your freaking deployments, you know. But what it does mean is like, hey, take that stuff, keep those memories, you know. And
Yeah.
I guess that whole thing of like storytelling and capturing parts of history, it was always just more of a passion that I never really considered making it as something else. So when I lost that job, and I was like, well, I need some money. Like my retirement's not enough to keep the ship afloat here. So I was like, well, I haven't used GI Bill, so I'm just going to go to school, and I'm going to go to school for something I enjoy. So yeah, I went for photography, and I just started looking more and more into the business side of it, and if it's something that I could create in a extremely overpopulated niche of photography. You know, there's tons of photographers. In fact, I think it's like one of like the top like millennials all want to be photographers, and Gen Zs all want to be content creators, you know, but so how do you find a niche? How do you even like decide that you could start a business that could be successful, you know, shooting with a camera? And a big part of that is just not every photo or media team is going to be the appropriate one for what you're doing. And there's only so many PAOs, and I'm sure you ran into it too as a team warrant. You've got PAO, or you've got, you know, your camera people that you want to have attached to you for whatever you're doing, whether it's training or whether it's operational. And there's you out of a squad of like, who knows, maybe 10 guys that PAO has, there's probably 2 that are like legit. You're like, hey, this is the one camera person we always request because this person is in shape. They know the skill set. They're safe. They're not a weirdo. I mean, we're all a little bit weird, but you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to embarrass you in a foreign country. You know, they're a normal person. And you run out. You don't have enough to do that. And there's nothing like, you can't go on a mission and have a liability. You can't go on a mission and have somebody that can't hang. So when I started the business, the whole point was always going to be, I want to set up a media team that is small, adventurous clients. So, you know, people who are doing high adventure things, like maybe they're doing like multi-day expedition through the mountains, or maybe they're sailing in a freaking Viking ship across the Atlantic, you know, whatever it is. They need a media team that's not a liability, that already understands planning, that can handle all that stuff. So like my clientele, I've done weddings and things like that, you know, for experience, and because I will do freelance work, but you know, my heart and soul on it is, how do I share people's stories who want their stories shared, but they don't just want to bring a camera nerd who's going to potentially sink the ship. So ideally, if I could snap my fingers 5 years from now, I would have, you know, a cadre of 10 freaking prior shooters that I've taught how to run equipment. And now it's just this, you know, awesome asset that could be used either, you know, something that SOCOM could use, or even something that, you know, again, high adventure YouTube clients are like, hey, I'm doing this thing and I want a freaking pipe hitter media team. That's what it is. So it's an opportunity for me to help share people's stories, which is what I'm passionate about, but also potentially line up jobs for guys as they get out, if they want to trade in their guns for cameras. So that's kind of the direction that it's pushing, and why I thought maybe I could make this work. So
no, the concept is absolutely on point. There's tons of, and I would say that there's individuals out there that do a lot of awesome backpacking and guided hunts, but they don't have anybody with them with the camera equipment and the fitness to actually go with them and capture those events. And like, that's a market. Like, you're on to something. And the scary part that I've inevitably run into is when you have a big enough dream and you're looking for a team, and it's like, fuck, dude, like it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work on one person. How do you go through that, working on it day in, trying to build it as it's in flight?
I think the hardest part about it is you got to plan. You got to really plan your own things. And when there's nothing on the table, especially like when you don't have clients lined up back to back to back, and you're working on your own time, you're like, dude, what do I do with all this time? Like, because I can do whatever I want to do. I can go out and I've got a ranch. I go out and screw with the animals all day. I can do whatever. But to actually like structure, what am I going to do throughout the day as the business is building? As I'm looking for clients, as I'm creating things, I treat it kind of the same way that you manage an ODA with training plans. Is what do I want to get better at? What do I need to be able to do? And how do I train that? So I shoot and edit a lot of content that no one will ever see because I want to try new things. I want to run new programs. I want to, create a capability that's going to work later. So I consider these are training days. So I plan in training days, and then I plan in client meetings, and then I just kind of let that stuff fall into place. So the biggest thing is just, again, it's not being stagnant. And I don't advertise, everything's word of mouth. Every client I've had has been a referral, and that's the way I want it to be. I don't make a ton of money on my pension, but I make enough to where I can kind of start the business the way I want. Like, it's not do or die. Like, my kids are still going to eat if I don't go out and shoot freaking. It sounds weird when you say shoot kids' birthday parties, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so
this is gonna get yanked from YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, what? Shit. Okay. Shoot with a camera shooting for the duration of this. Anytime I say shooting, I'm probably talking about a camera. But yeah, so I can be a little bit more deliberate in what I want to do and really just shoot what I think is going to lead to more clientele that I want to work with, or that's going to highlight what I'm doing. Because I'll pass off business to people who are better than me. Like, I'm okay with that, saying, hey, this is what you want. You want this photo? I know a great photographer. He can do that perfectly. And then if he knows a client that needs, video work or whatever, they'll send stuff my way. So I'm slow rolling the business purposefully because I'd rather build a stronger core clientele than just, bouncing off the wall of all different types of projects, so.
Dude, so true, man. Like, scaling is one of the hardest things to, like, I think intuitively when we dive into this endeavor, we all kind of figure out that, like, okay, I need to progress at a certain rate. But when you get outside influences, and it's all friends or family members that mean well, they see your talents, they see what you're doing. They want to say, like, hey, you need to grab this person and you need to onboard this person and you should hire this person. And it's like, whoa, dude, like,
yeah,
dude, if you scale too much too fast, you're going to die. Like, how do you manage that? The good intentions from friends and family members and sort of your own wisdom and your own voice?
Yeah. I mean, I think honestly, I've been at least fortunate enough to where I haven't had a lot of that sort of thing. Anybody that I've reached out to, because I've reached out to a couple people and say, hey, I'm watching you just so you know how many years you got left. When are you getting out? Because I know that they share a similar passion. And I was like, okay, you're getting out in 3 years. Okay, if I'm at the point here, I'll bring you on. But anybody I've talked to knows that, hey, right off the bat, everything's going to be, it's going to be an independent contractor job. You're going to be paid per job until I had the predictability to be able to salary somebody. And I would love to get to that point where, hey, I have a crew of this many salary and this many shooters around the country that I can put on contracts. So yeah, I guess I haven't really had the point to where I've had people reach out, hey, whatever I can do. Hey, when's the next project? Hey, here's something I want to work on, which is awesome stuff. Especially guys who've gotten out that have all these awesome hidden talents that they've kept hidden away from the teams. Like, you got a guy who I worked with for years, and I had no idea he was a closet DJ, like a good one, like techno, like, oh yeah, like techno, trance, old school stuff. Like, he's not a guy with an iPad and a freaking headphone. He's got his turntables. It's like he's been doing like underground electronica techno for years. No idea. And he's very skilled. I'm like, dude, this is great. Yeah. Like, this sounds like somebody who would be really good for sound design and things like that.
Yeah.
So dude. Yeah, so I'm always assessing talents for when I can bring those guys on board. So I can't say I've had a lot of pressure for saying you should hire this guy, you should hire this guy, because I'm early enough in the company to where I just don't think I have the workload to where people like are going to start throwing people my way like that yet. So
yeah, that's good to be able to have that understanding that good work is going to get you reference to somebody else that will want to see your talents put to good use on their projects. Like that's the easiest thing. The hardest thing is having to do what you were doing before, having to go out there and try to do the cold calls, trying to do like the paid promotions and advertising as a small entrepreneur. Like that's where things get hectic and things fall apart real fucking fast. Like,
it's wild, man. And that's one of the benefits of when I worked with the other company is I worked very close with their partnership teams. So I got to see how exactly that works. And a lot of it is influencer marketing. That's a huge part of how a lot of small businesses, especially CPG companies, go. It's influencer marketing. So I got to see who they're talking to. I'm in on the interviews, how much they get paid, how many reels and stories. So I got to see that whole side of what it looks like to do, the marketing through social media and everything. And I guess it was pretty eye-opening. And now, as I use social media and I can see just how many, like, anytime I see somebody's product back on the corner, it's like, oh, somebody paid you to put that there. Like, nobody with a platform is advertising for free. Maybe they will. And if they are, they're doing it because they're hoping to get a call from that company to be like, hey, I saw you had our thing, whatever. So, it's definitely an eye-opening world of just how much stuff is being fed to you, they're being paid to do it, so.
Yeah. If you're watching a podcast on YouTube and you see something on the desk, it's on there for a reason, my man. Like that's real estate.
And it's not a bad thing, it's
no,
just,
not at all.
But you do need to understand that, hey, if your favorite YouTuber keeps drinking this drink, bro, he's not doing it because it's the only option. He's doing it because he has 500 of them in his fridge, and he's probably required to put at least 2 reels out or whatever it is. So it's just kind of the way it is.
Social media marketing is insane, and that's something that a lot of us as entrepreneurs need to understand and really dive into, because if you
the attention economy, that's where it's at. That's where people spend majority of their time. Not a lot of people sit down and watch commercials on TV. You're on YouTube or you're on Instagram. That's where the majority of people are going to see your product. So it just happens to be the environment we're in, whether you like it or not, whether you're completely against social media. That's where content is consumed. And from a business standpoint, it's an important thing to recognize, whether you want to be in that arena or not, that exists. That's where the eyeballs are,
Yeah. And how do you navigate that space? Being somebody that puts amazing content out there, gets enough referrals to continue moving the ball forward. Mm-hmm. How do you navigate social media to try to get awareness and grow?
I haven't used it a lot for growing the business, to be honest. Even my own page, which is even weird to even have my own social media, because I started it like pretty much right before I got out, because I had never even used Instagram. I didn't really know what the whole point of it was. I thought it's just a place where people shared pictures. I didn't realize the monstrosity that it had become, as I just kind of ignored it over the years. And when I started doing a couple podcasts as part of this other company and meeting with people, it just started kind of growing on its own. And the couple times I thought, okay, maybe I will try to make social media a thing. Maybe I will try to grow my own page just for the sake of networking. It just felt so inauthentic, and I hated it. I hate doing content for the sake of content and having that thought, is this going to go viral? Is this going to crack the algorithm? Is this going to be the thing that brings attention to the page? And I dislike that so much that I just completely stopped doing it. I still put content out there, but it's just me. It's just something, if I see, I think something's funny or I think something's cool that my kids are doing, that's what I do with it. Now, the business page, there will be more stuff on there at some point, but I'm not aggressively pushing on it. Again, to me, the core, having a strong core of believers and clients outside of Instagram, to me, is way more important. It might be a slower roll. It might take longer for business to pick up, and I might not be as well known in the internet stratosphere, which is okay with me. But I'm going to have a much stronger base. And that's another thing I learned too about looking at social media. And I look at the guys we're working with. Hey, here's a guy that has, I'm not going to put names on him, but here's a guy that has 15 million followers across platforms. And here's how many people buy a product that he's endorsing based off of that. And it doesn't always scale as far as this guy's got 10 million, so 100,000 people will buy the product, or this guy has 10,000, so 100 people. It doesn't work that way. You really have to look at who they are, what kind of person they are, what their how strong their core followers are, and all that. So, numbers don't always mean everything. You know, it's the quality of those people. And I like to treat every single person I come in contact with as the real person who they are, not a number or a follower or a view. And that's why, to me, it's more important to be deliberate in what I'm doing than to just blast tons of content out there to try to get followers. Because followers are followers, man. Like, there's AI chicks that aren't even real that have 1 million followers. So, like, you can't use those numbers to validate whether people like what you're doing or whatever. It's just numbers. So yeah, I'm deliberately slow rolling it because everything I do is very deliberate, and every client that I work with, I'm working with them for a reason. So
I think the other thing that's important to understand too is a lot of guys get intimidated. They see the follower numbers and they're like, oh man, I'll never be able to get like this guy. And it's like, dude, there's a lot of people that buy followers. There's a lot of services out there where you pay a couple $100 and you're instantly throttled up to 10K, 12K. And it's like, look, find out what you want to promote and share.
Yeah. More people do it than you realize. That's another thing too to realize. Like, even like there's a ton of people that would talk shit about it or whatever, but there are a lot of people who buy followers because it's cheap. So yeah. And most influencers who you see that are like, this guy looks like he's famous just for being famous, whatever. Dude, there's so much fake stuff out there. Like flexing with cars they don't own, in houses they don't own. And it all revolves around easy money. It all revolves around, you know, I'm sure you've seen them too. If you're a perpetual internet troll at this point, like I am, unfortunately, like how often you see ads for people that like, I'm 20 years old and I just retired my family because I steal clips and then I do this program that adds captions. I've got set, dude, they're all over the place. And it's like the amount of people who are creating original content and doing amazing, incredible things is shrinking. And the amount of people that are just regurgitating other people's work without credit is growing. So if you just go into the mindset that everything you're looking at is fake until it's been validated, that's probably a pretty safe mindset for social media.
Yeah, absolutely. I stick to the old format of memes and podcast clips. I'm going to get you to laugh twice a day, every day, and then I'm going to slide in my content. I know what the team room humor. I know what's funny for our demographic. I know what people enjoy laughing at, and I like to inspire a little bit of goodness in the world. And I think when you lay out your mission, lay out what you want to bring to the world, especially when it coincides with marketing your podcast or YouTube channel, find what fits in. Like, I'm not going to blast the internet with how-to tutorials in making the next friggin' best reel. I'm not like, that's not my thing, but I will make you laugh with some funny memes about being a warrant on a team or an 18 Echo in his cage. Like, and it directly relates to what I'm doing here. And that works for me. And,
you got to get the word out. It's like somebody has to see it, you know, even look at this. Like I saw, you know, I commented on something that you posted. I thought it was funny warrant humor, and, you know, and we're at this point. So yeah, you could see the strategy working in real time here on how to find people and how to get your name and how to boost it out. So yeah, it is a strategy. And I think in the business world, if you completely ignore social media marketing, you're just setting yourself up for an additional challenge.
Boy, was I doing that. Stood
I
that
mean,
for the longest time.
We fight it, you know, because it's not in our nature to do that sort of thing. But, you know, I think the longer you retire, especially with GWAT, you know, being done and all that, I guess you just start to not care as much anymore. And
you have to divorce that idea that you're just one aspect. You're just one. I'm just a warrant officer. I'm a Green Beret. Like, no, you're more than that. Like, TikTok's not the healthiest or greatest thing out there, but some of the other social media apps are okay. Like, you don't have to make it your life. You don't have to stay married to it, but find out how to use these tools to promote your business. As you were, keep stepping on you. As you were transitioning out, what were some of the other things that you were kind of having to come to terms with or deal with?
One of the biggest struggles that I still deal with is balancing work and family. And that's always been the case for the military. But when it comes to the military, you don't really have a choice. You know, it is what it is. When you get out, especially for me, like I am finally home. I'm finally around, which means every time I make a decision to not be around, I'm choosing to do something as opposed to being with my family. So now I have to be very, very deliberate about the time that I'm choosing to be away, if it's like for something for work or whatever. Because yeah, like for the first time, I'm going to be around. I'm going to be at the graduations. I'm going to be at the soccer games. I'm going to be everywhere my kids are going to be. I'm going to be there for the first time. And especially like running your own business where you run your own calendar and things like that, it's tough to decide. It's like, I don't want to be that guy that goes on work trips again all the time. Like I want to give back to the family that sacrificed so much for me to be gone. That yeah, like I really struggled to like find my right place, like just jumping into another career. Because and I'm going to tell you guys now, like for you guys that are watching, if you're worried about getting a job when you get out, especially if your thing is like, hey, I just want to keep the money flowing in, you can find a job. A team guy can get out and find a job very easily. It doesn't even have to be in something you're good at, but your soft skills and your conceptual thought process, everything that made you a successful special operations guy, is so valuable in the outside world. And the network is strong too. It's not hard to get a job. Finding one that you're passionate about, that's on you, whatever it is. But you're not gonna starve when you get out. So like, there's work out there, whether it be contracting, like even USA.gov, whatever. They've got tons of veteran jobs. Dude, go on there. There's remote jobs. There's stuff. Yeah, there's work out there. But the hardest part is now you're in charge of deciding how much you're going to be home. You're in charge of saying, do I want to work a 9 to 5? So that's just personally the biggest thing I struggled with was like, how do I balance giving back to my family, but also still being a provider? And have I done the most impactful thing in my life? And is everything else, downhill from here? Like, is everything else going to suck? Am I ever really going to reach that level of happiness that I had on the team? And the answer is no. You're not ever going to feel that same thing, but that doesn't mean that's the only thing. You can find something you're passionate about. You can do something different. You can still be happy. Being a team guy doesn't have to be the coolest thing I've ever done. Maybe it will be, I don't know, but that doesn't mean it's the end. So even dealing with that sort of depression as well, it's like, I retired. I joined really early. I retired at 37. And for me to say that my life is over at 37 and I'm just going to be freaking pulling in a paycheck and living out life for who knows how many years, it's a super depressing thought. Many of successful business, business person started in their 40s, their 50s, their 60s. So, as long as you can maintain your physical health, then you can try all sorts of different things. Like we just don't do time well, in the Army. You're always getting ready for the next thing. You're always getting ready for the next deployment, for the next PCS, whatever. That's when you see a civilian that's worked for 10 years in a certain job and whatever, you're like, God, it's a long time. It's like, it's really not anymore. Time is really different on the outside than it is on the inside. So I guess, I don't know. There was a lot on your question there, but yeah, I would say to bring it down short, multiple struggles getting out, as far as finding purpose. What do you want to do? How do I balance work life when I'm the one making the decisions? And then how do you get past that feeling that the most impactful thing you've ever done is already over, Yeah. Those are things that come at you.
And that's again, that's the thing I try to harp on, that it's all of us are going to go through this, and we all have those same hurdles. And there's still that hard cadre out there that's like, no, I'm not going to go through that. I'm going to go through my transition super easy. I'm going to be friggin' working at this super high stress sales job, and I'm going to fucking crush life. And it's like, look, man, like,
yeah, if that's what makes you happy, do it, man. And I think a lot of it too had to do with, at least timing wise, when I got out, is I was extremely fortunate in my timeline for my career. I came in, I went to OIF 1. I got out at the end of Afghanistan. So I had the whole GWAT. And I really wasn't interested in any of the other stuff going on in the world. And if GWAT was still going on, if I still had boys going down range, or if there was a potential for me to go range, I wouldn't have got out. Even looking back now at where that all went, still, like, if there was a fight going on, I'd have still been part of it. But, being a company warrant and looking at training concepts for Eastern European JSETs and things like that for the next however many years, I wasn't super pumped on it. I did my team time. I made the list. I made the list for 3. And that's when I put my paperwork in to retire.
Yeah.
So I can at least say, hey, I was a CW2P. Yeah, I was almost field grade, but I did the time in the place I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, and I'm probably sure going to get a lot of pushback, but I think CW2 is the perfect fucking place to hang your hat and walk the fuck away.
It is, but it freaking screws everyone else, which sucks. And the way that happens is there is the abundance of CW4s and 5s. It's always like 200% strength.
Yeah.
There's like no CW3s, and then there's 2s.
Yeah.
And because of that, and here's what happens with the slate, and which I hope they can really take a good look at, is that you have the slate. Here's all the jobs that have to be filled. Well, this is a CW4 position. We don't have any CW3s or 4s that are going to do it. So let's nab those 2s off the team early.
Yeah.
And it sucks because like you really have to look at how important is that job that you're going to pull this guy to go do. Like G5 planning at Fort Bragg for future plans to work under a CW5. Is that more important than pulling a warrant off a team for a company that only has 3 warrants, whatever? And a lot of times it wasn't. So guys are getting nabbed, CW2s that want to be on the team for another 8 years or whatever it is. They get pulled off to go do these other assignments, and then they get disenfranchised, and they're just like, dude, this is crap, man. So that's why a lot of guys are getting out. They can say, hey, I've done all the cool things I wanted to do, and you pulled me off early. Because you're supposed to, like, especially like specialty teams, like free fall teams, stuff like, dude, it's written in, like, you can be a CW3 and run those teams. CW3s should be on teams. But we've already decided that that's not the case anymore. But no, like, why are we pulling guys off so freaking early? Like, our greatest asset is our experience. So why are we pulling guys over? Like, there's teams right now where nobody has a combat patch.
Yeah.
Nobody. Even team sergeants. We're at that point already. It didn't take long.
Oh yeah.
We're already at that point.
The exodus is
yeah,
still going on.
You have entire companies where maybe the ops sergeant, the warrant, like maybe those guys might have some combat experience, but almost entire companies of guys that don't. So why are we in such a hurry to put those guys in staff positions instead of leading, staying on teams? I don't know.
It's crazy. It's crazy how fast it happened. It's just talking to a buddy of mine that's still in. It's like, dude, it is a ghost town. There's just nothing but E7s running teams. You can't find enough E8s anywhere. Yeah. But I have faith. I have faith that it will course correct. Hopefully, there's still good men out there. They're still great. It's funny to think how fast it goes. That I have friends that are now post team sergeant time and are looking like, it's like, holy shit, like we were all just wet behind the ears, brand new green bracelet, what felt like just a few weeks ago. Now everybody's just old, broken, and on their way out. That's
how it goes. Like, you get to a team and you see a guy that's been on the team for 2 years. You just get there and you're like, man, that guy's been here for 2 years already. He knows the stuff. And then you get to be that guy who's at 2 years. And you're like, man, that guy's been on 5 years. He knows his stuff. Yeah. And then you get to that point. And now it's like, wow, this guy's been in the community for 12 years. And like, the point I'm making is, no matter how long you're there, you never feel like you've got all the experience. You always feel like a new guy. Everywhere you go, you always feel like there's still more to learn. And there's always somebody that knows more. And it goes that way until you're out. And then all of a sudden you're like, man, I wish I could start over with the knowledge that I have now. And every single job you get to, you're like, man, if I'd have known this when I did my last job, it would have been so much better. And I mean, I would hope that would highlight the necessity for keep guys on the teams. For goodness sakes, keep guys on the teams. If a guy doesn't want to be an E9, don't force him to freaking be an E9. Like, let these guys stay on teams. Let them retain that experience. So
I mean, we're going to need it now more than ever.
Yeah.
The next few years are going to be spicy, to say the least.
Yeah, dude, it's a very uncertain world. And I think one of the biggest mistakes we made, and again, like this is just from my lens looking at it, is we tried so hard to make everybody everything.
Yes,
and
dude.
That's not how we were designed. Like, you have to go into the special operations with the mindset that your results may vary. Okay, there's guys. Look at like Triple Nickel when they went into Iraq. You know, the team that got freaking basically blown out of their hide site and shit. Like, there's probably a guy on that team that went to SWIC the month before. You know, there's probably like a guy that hurt his wrist or whatever doing some shit and couldn't make the deployment. Or there's probably another team that didn't get the call to do that mission because of whatever. So, like, dude, you don't know what it's going to be like when you get in. You might have a freaking crazy ass gunslinging good time. Dude, you might do JSETs and KLEs. And the fact is, you have to understand your role. Like, you are a tool for the government. You're a tool for SOCOM. And you're supposed to be. Because they're not supposed to say, hey, we got 15 ODAs that can all do the same thing. No, you're supposed to say, I've got one ODA that is exceptional in this area. And if a mission set comes down to support that, that's the team. And these guys aren't. Like, you have to know your role. You have to be an expert in what you're supposed to be an expert in. And then if the world dictates it's your time, it's your time. And it's like we wanted to market ourselves like, hey, free fall for all. Like, everybody knew that wasn't viable. Every Halo guy knew that there's no way you're going to have an entire company of guys who are proficient enough to do the actual mission. Like, sure, you can jump out. Sure, you can get your freaking, wings and say that, hey, our whole company is Halo qualified. But to actually have the proficiency to jump in a combat situation at night with all your gear, you have to be an expert. You have to train. You have to be like these freaking super flyer teams to be able to do that sort of thing. So it was always marketing, in my opinion, to do free fall for all. And then it's the same thing for like, look when SEALs start doing language training or start doing UW training and things like that. Why? Because everyone wants a piece of the pie. Everyone wants to be the teams that get to go. But that's not, like, in my opinion, that's not the way, man. Like, every team has a role. Every team has something they're supposed to be good at. Maximize those teams. That way they're ready when the mission set comes down. Dude, if you never get the call, you never get the call. You did great training. You freaking did everything your country asked of you. But it is what it is. And that's the difference between creating experts or creating, you can't even call them jacks of all trades. Like, no,
just mediocrity across the board.
You can be check the block. Like, there's even, and you went through the warrant course, so if you took the entire calendar for 1 year and you put in every 350-1 requirement that you have to be able to do as a special operator, there's not enough days in the year to be proficient in all the things you're supposed to be proficient in. So how do you rack and stack what's most important? Well, it's BFAs, it's battle focus analysis, it's commander's intent. What does my team need to be good at so we can focus on that? We'll master the basics, and here's these specialties that we're going to excel at. But that's it. Like, anything else is fake. And especially, for me, like I said, the mountain program is so near dear to my heart. A half-assed mountain team is a freaking dangerous mountain team. If you're not proficient in it, if you're basic guys that haven't been to the course, haven't been training hard at it, dude, the mountains will kill you. The mountains try to kill you every time you go there. So, and it's up to you to mitigate that risk. So yeah, I'm a huge proponent for train on the things that matter, and the things that don't matter as much, your commander has to be willing to acknowledge that that's not what you're focusing on. So yeah, it sounds like simple stuff that makes sense, but we've seen the reality of how that works out sometimes. So,
we have. It's a lesson that they never quite learn and continue to deal with and struggle through. Yeah. But the beauty of it is it's on to the next generation. It's on to the next group of senior NCOs, warrants, and officers to figure this out. And I know they will. I know they're capable.
Yeah, for sure. There's enough guys. I have confidence. There's enough guys that have stayed in and have moved on to those staff positions, those higher level positions, that they felt the pain of mass producing soft guys. They've seen the result of check the block training, and they understand, hey, like this really is a mission liability if we're not actually creating the strongest, most effective teams we can, and we're just trying to like blanket train everybody. They've seen the result of that. So I hope those guys can take the reins and create the most effective generation of Green Berets to date. So yeah,
absolutely. Well, Bryan, real quick before I let you go, if people want to find out more about your business, where can they find you?
Yeah. So do you have like links, or do you have anything on wherever you post these things?
Oh yeah, it'll be right here on the YouTube description, and if you're listening to it on the podcast on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcast, just pause it, go to the episode description, and you'll see all this information right there.
Yeah, so I'll get with you for my Instagram and my work email and stuff like that, and guys can reach out. Dude, and across the board, man, if it's like mental health related, if it's freaking after work related, or even if it's like, hey, like we're about to go do this freaking mission, we get consistently told no for getting support. I mean, we'll see what the possibility there lies as well. If you bring, hire the company on to run with your team. So yeah, feel free to reach out. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention, I don't want this to turn this into a whole mental health thing, but it is super important. And I just want guys to know, please go talk to somebody at some point and like really open that shit up. Because we're really bad in this community about comparing our own trauma with other people's.
Yep.
If you've got your own issues, but somebody that went through something worse and you think they're doing okay, we automatically disqualify ourselves because like, oh, I'm just being a punk, I'm just being weak, whatever. No, dude, you can't compare your trauma with somebody else's trauma. Like, take care of that stuff. Had I not, I would be in a much worse place than I'm in right now. So if there's anything to leave after all the business and fun talk here is that don't discount the importance of taking care of yourself. When it comes to mental health, like it's completely okay to do that.
Absolutely, man.
So
it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. We all go through it. I talk about it all the time on the show, and I share my experience. And as well as I know that if you've listened to the show for a while, you've heard it from every single guest. We all go through it. Transition is that heightened point of stress where things naturally fall apart for us, and it's okay to get help. Yeah. Whether it's with your local P3 or going through an independent therapist that is outside the military, so you feel a little more comfortable. Yep. Don't be afraid of reaching out.
And when you get out, not a lot of people know this. Like you don't like if you stay on with TRICARE or whatever, you don't have to. There's no copay for it's like a certain number of like mental health stuff you can do. So if you have somebody that you talk to or work with and they're within network, dude, you can just do it, and TRICARE is going to cover it. Like they are. That is one thing that they are doing a good job as far as the VA goes, is your access to mental health and counseling like that. And dude, even if there's nothing wrong, dude, just schedule one anyway. And if you're in there and you determine, hey, you're as healthy as a top when it comes out, dude, that's great. You burned an hour, but maybe you'll find out that you really are able to dive into something that might be holding you back or something that might be kind of crushing you on the inside. So the business stuff's important, but the lives and well-being of our guys getting out is way more important. So if there was anything to end for me highlighting on that, it's freaking take care of yourself, because we got too many guys hurting themselves on the outside. I'm not sure you're probably the same way, but I dread seeing a group message come through once or twice a year, because as soon as I see a bunch of my old team guys on a group message,
it's not good.
There's a good chance we know why. So take care of yourself, take care of your buddies.
Well, Bryan, thank you so much for being on today, and I can't wait to have you back on the show, man.
Yeah.
To everybody listening, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time. Till then, take care, please.
Awesome. Thanks, Danny.